Hey yo, what up? It's your boy. So, an article just came out on the Japan Times right here about some anime beef. Yeah, you thought the anime industry was vegan, vegetarian, no beef whatsoever? Unlike the music and YouTube industry? No, supposedly there is some anime industry beef happening between two of, I'd say, the biggest, or at least the most notable names in the anime industry. One, Hosoda Mamoru, who is a very well-renowned anime director, done stuff like Wolf Children, Boy and the Beast, Summer Wars, the Digimon movie, and he's throwing some shade. He's throwing out some beef at Hayao Miyazaki. Like, the Hayao Miyazaki, you know, the guy who created Ghibli, one of the greatest anime directors of our generation. And I just read through this rather short Japan Times article, and there's really nothing wrong with the article, but I definitely do have some things to say. So obviously I'll be paraphrasing a lot of it. The article is down in the description if you'd like to read through it extensively, but the brand new Hosoda Mamoru movie Belle recently came out in Japan this year. I think about like a month ago or something, a couple of weeks ago. It did really well at the Cannes Film Festival, and it grossed pretty beautifully on the opening weekend in cinemas. Now, I for one have not gone to see Belle yet, but considering that the last couple of Hosoda Mamoru movies have been kind of okay, not as fantastic as his earlier works, has really not made me that excited to go and see his new movie. I mean, Mirai, which was his last movie, was kind of mediocre and like way too slow paced for my liking, and A Boy and the Beast is honestly probably the most overrated of all the Hosoda Mamoru films. Like, I enjoyed it, but if you've already seen his earlier works, it's pretty much just a rehashed version of his earlier works. It's basically just taking on the vibes of his earlier works. Not to say I don't like Hosoda Mamoru. I mean, he's made some of my favorite movies, you know, in the case in point, Summer Wars being an absolutely brilliant movie. Wolf Children made me cry like an absolute bitch. And you know what? As much as I wasn't into the TV series growing up, the Digimon movie is pretty goddamn amazing. And I think a lot of what people also forget that he directed one of my favorite anime openings, TV openings of all time, Samurai Champloo. Yeah, the man literally directed the opening to Samurai Champloo. So it goes to show this guy has a lot of very good stuff under his belt. But it seems that I don't know if it's because he was kind of on this like winning streak, this kind of winning lap of his new movie doing amazingly, and according to this Japan Times article, he apparently got a 14-minute standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival, which is pretty goddamn long, almost too long. Supposedly, he made some comments at the Cannes Film Festival about the way women are portrayed in anime. He says here, quote, "You only have to watch Japanese animation to see how young women are underestimated and not taken seriously in Japanese society." And as the article points out as well, which I fully agree with, yes, you know, he does have a point. I mean, you don't have to dig deep far into the anime world to realize that, you know, the way that women are portrayed are over-sexualized in an almost misogynistic type of way in a lot of senses, is pretty... It's pretty brutal. As the article points out here, The Rising of the Shield Hero extols the virtues of keeping women as slaves, and this season's Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid S somehow features both impossibly large breasts and implied endorsements of the P word, and the list goes on. I personally want to call a little bit of BS on the Japan Times for those two examples. You know, if you actually watched Rising of the Shield Hero, it's done so to a character that has a very troubled past, and also that relationship improves in a much better direction over time. Of course, we're talking about Raftalia in this case, right? Raftalia, yes, does start off as a slave, and he gets bought out by Naofumi as a slave, but then eventually he learns to love again. And, you know, in the context of the story, it makes sense as to why he treats Raftalia very cold at the beginning, right? Very much as a slave. But I don't know if it's so much virtue signaling, the virtues of keeping women as slaves all that much. I mean, you know, if you were to have given an example, why not use something like, you know, Redo the Healer, or, you know, it's one that actually, in a lot of ways, does extol that virtue. And in terms of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, I mean, dude, the fact that you are taking Kobayashi's Dragon Maid seriously is already a big L on your part. I mean, for Christ's sake. Everything about that show is ridiculous. The fact that it has these impossibly large breasts and implies endorsements of the P word, for one, is very much your prerogative. I don't think there is very many people who are actually watching Kobayashi's Dragon Maid in that kind of eye, and if they are watching it in that kind of eye, that's their problem, but it's definitely not a representation of the majority of people who watch that show. There are better shows that represent your point in this case. Like, Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is probably the weakest to represent both of those points. I can think of like 10, 20, 50 ecchi shows that have the impossibly large breast trope way more ridiculous, and trust me, if you dig far deep into the anime world, when it comes to the endorsement of the P word, quote unquote, it gets a hell of a lot worse than Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, let me tell you. Regardless of the backing up of the facts, you know, the point still stands that yes, at the end of the day, the Japanese animation world does kind of underestimate or undermine women in a lot of ways, and you know, whether that has taken effect directly on Japanese society is still left to be told. I mean, I would like to think that we've gotten a little bit better here in Japan when it comes to how Japanese women are taken seriously, at least young women are taken seriously societally wise, but you know, I definitely can't hide the fact that yes, there are very much still a lot of problems that exist that definitely need to be worked on. So Hosoda makes that point at the Cannes Film Festival, which would have been fine, as is. It would have been fine if he just ended it there. But then he, for some reason, points the gun at Hayao Miyazaki. He complained about Miyazaki's veneration of young women and posited that the 80-year-old director features women as heroes because he does not have confidence in himself as a man. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know if it's like just this Japan Times writer who has written it like this. I like to think that because Japan Times is very accurate when it comes to how they write their articles, I would know. They wrote an article on me before and it was pretty fucking accurate. I like to think that this is actually what Hosoda Mamoru said, and Hosoda Mamoru is just saying some crazy shit because, for one, Hayao Miyazaki does a pretty fucking good job of giving good representation to young women in his anime. I think almost every single Studio Ghibli film written and directed by Miyazaki features one or more young women in either main roles or very strong supporting roles that feature off their independent strength, feature off the fact that, yes, they are females, but in a lot of cases, they're way cooler than the dudes and they're way more dependent than the dude characters. As the article points out in great detail, you know, you can go back to the very, very beginning of Miyazaki Hayao's career, you know, in Ghibli, for example, right? You have characters like Lady Eboshi from Princess Mononoke, who was very powerful, and not to mention Sang as well, who is the main leading character that helps Ashitaka throughout, you know, his entire debacle of trying to get rid of the curse thing, right? Like, if you've seen these movies, you will know that the strong female characters are very present and very well supported in Miyazaki's stories. You know, if you even go back to before Studio Ghibli, you have Nausicaa, which has a literal young female role getting shit done to the place that she rules because the men are bloody useless in that story and the men don't do anything. The men are weak. So the woman comes and says, like, these goddamn men can't do anything. I'll do the dirty work. And she does it in a absolutely glamorous, powerful, independent, really inspiring way. I love as well how the article mentions the Clarice from Miyazaki's The Castle Cagliostro, which is considered as Miyazaki's first major directorial debut, and it's one of my favorite Miyazaki Hayao films, actually. You know, I love myself my Lupin the Third, and that movie is by far one of the best examples of how you can take the absolute chaos of the Lupin the Third series and turn it into something that was just grand and over the top, but in an amazing adventuristic type of way. Clarice the damsel in distress from Miyazaki's The Castle Cagliostro is sometimes seen as helping kick off the trend of fetishizing anime girls known as moe. I honestly don't really agree with that in a lot of sense. I mean, that is really taking the term moe in the most broad of ways because there are so many ways that you can define the word moe. I mean, she's just like a princess that viewers fawned over because she was cute. And like, would I consider that moe? I personally wouldn't, especially when you compare it to how Moe actually evolved into the mid 2000s. If you look back at Clarice, it's like almost zero correlation. What, just because she's not like Fujiko-chan and she's not like this like badass powerful character and it's just like a soft like damsel in distress, ooh please help me Lupin-sama, that suddenly the plaster of Moe is put on this character? Yeah, big doubt on that, bro. But what I think is just the absolute biggest L when it comes to Hosoda trying to throw Miyazaki Hayao under the bus in this situation is that because he doesn't have the confidence in himself as a man, really just seems like a personal prerogative. I mean, I can't even think of anything that can immediately remit to memory of Miyazaki Hayao ever giving me that vibe in his interviews or in his works or anything like that. But for one, you also know that just in context, if you know the context of how absolutely fucking hypocritical this statement is and how hypocritical this beef is, Hayao Miyazaki getting shit from Hosoda Mamoru, because Hosoda Mamoru in interviews has stated multiple times that the reason why he got inspired to become an anime director is because he watched The Castle of Cagliostro, which is a Hayao Miyazaki movie that supposedly is undermining Japanese women in its anime. Like, you can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. Did Hosoda Mamoru like forget his influences, or did he just say some bullshit in those interviews when he asked what his inspiration was to be an anime director because he wanted to look good for his senpai? Man, he must be on like a really good streak right now mentally, considering that he got a 14-minute standing ovation and the fact that his movie did pretty goddamn well, and it's probably going to end up being one of the biggest anime films of the year, because literally there hasn't been any other big anime film that has been released this year because of the pandemic. Ghibli made that really crap film that was directed by Hayao Miyazaki's son, which no one has given a shit about since the very beginning of his career. Not even his own dad has taken him seriously since the beginning of his career. Look, I'm saying all this shit right now. I personally have not seen Belle. I haven't seen anything about Belle. I've seen the trailer. Looks pretty damn good, not gonna lie. Regardless of if Belle ends up being one of the greatest Hosoda Mamoru films, which I personally don't think it will be, just considering his track record recently, but even if Belle ends up being one of Hosoda Mamoru's best films, this was just unnecessary, and it honestly is just like a massive L on Hosoda Mamoru's part. Like he was getting a little bit cocky with these comments. Let me just say that. He was getting a little bit fucking cocky. And as this Japan Times article has done such an amazing job of reinforcing my point, they put in this little tidbit at the end as well, which I didn't actually know. Howl's Moving Castle may be a large part of Hosoda's source of beef with Miyazaki. Hosoda was set to helm that film, but bristled under the creative restrictions imposed by Ghibli. Hosoda eventually left the project and was replaced by Miyazaki himself. So he's just mad that he didn't end up making one of the most financially successful films for Ghibli because of his weird obsession with how he wanted to have directive control. Even though we all know that every director who has directed different stuff under Ghibli have done a pretty goddamn good job of, again, giving women that stronger power. Yes, Howl's Moving Castle might not have the strongest female lead. In fact, out of all of the Ghibli films, it might honestly have the most femme fatale type of female lead character. But again, that doesn't take away from the fact that Ghibli has made multiple films. In fact, if we're talking purely in terms of the number of films that have strong female leads, there's probably more Miyazaki films out there than Hosoda Mamoru films out there that have stronger female leads, just purely from the fact that Miyazaki has been in the industry for like twice the length as Hosoda Mamoru has. So I don't really see why the beef had to go towards Miyazaki when there are literal hundreds of TV anime directors out there who are undermining and underestimating women 100 times more in their TV series that should be at the brunt of this discussion. Like, Hayao Miyazaki is the last guy who should be at the brunt of this discussion. Like, he had nothing to do with this dude. And again, like, why would you throw the guy who has literally inspired you under the bus like this for no apparent reason. What, just because your film did amazing and you got that 14-minute... Does a 14-minute standing ovation really change a man that much? I don't know. I've never gotten a 14-minute standing ovation, but I would like to imagine if I did, I'd feel pretty fucking uncomfortable after around the 7-minute mark. And also, does Hosoda forget that there are female anime directors as well? Like, not all anime directors are males out there. In fact, some of the most celebrated of recent times anime directors are all females. Look at the likes of Yamamoto Sayo or fucking Okada Mari, dude. Like, these are female directors who take women and put them in strong female roles, and that is a great thing because it just reinforces the fact that, you know, in a lot of anime, in a lot of the big production anime films especially, there are a lot of strong female characters. Like, not every single one of Miyazaki's films has to have strong female characters, Hosoda. You do realize that, right? Like, otherwise, it would kind of just be the same fucking film over and over and over and over again. You can have that strong female character, don't get me wrong, but sometimes people want to see, and people meaning men and female viewers, sometimes want to see a femme fatale. Sometimes they want to see a damsel in distress. Sometimes they want to see something in between that. So yeah, this was just some dumb shit from Hosoda Mamoru. Like, he took a really big L here. I don't know what the fuck he was on. I mean, you know, good on you for getting and creating a really successful new film. I'm looking forward to seeing it, honestly. I really do want to go see it. As much as I love your films, Hosoda, I mean, not every single one of your films has been a masterpiece either. So maybe just, you know, tone it down a bit. And if you're going to throw beef in that way, and if you're going to try and make a point, maybe, you know, point that beef, point that criticism at the people who are actually worthy of that criticism, not the dude who literally inspired you to get to the point where you currently are. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that down in the comments below. Also, make sure to check out these 2 other videos next to my head if you enjoy this type of content. Make sure to subscribe to your boy as well. Not enough people are subscribed to this channel. And hey, if there are any other pieces of anime news that you would like me to talk about, any topics you'd like me to talk about, leave them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.